Welcome to EdScoop TV. I'm Wyatt Kash, and I'm here today with Todd Lawrence. Todd is the EdTech and E-rate coordinator for the Idaho Department of Education. Todd, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So we're here at the State Education Technology Directors Association's annual Leadership Summit, and I know broadband and infrastructure are among some of the major topics. I know SETDA just released a major document encouraging schools to advance their standards for broadband and capacity and so forth. Tell us a little about, number one, what you're seeing going on broadly, and then maybe we could talk a little more about Idaho in particular.
Well, from the broadband perspective, we have many applicants that are procuring their own broadband, and so that's driven the cost of their broadband costs down significantly, and they've actually increased their need and demand on the megs quite a lot more than they had in the past. So it's nice to see that go that direction. So it's definitely lower cost for the districts and the taxpayers of Idaho, but the need of that connectivity has definitely increased to support the expansions that districts have across the state.
Mm-hmm. And relative to E-rate funding, you're an E-rate coordinator, correct. So you get to see both the opportunities and the challenges of securing funding for wireless services, infrastructure. Mm-hmm. How have you found, though E-rates expanded, is it getting easier for schools? And how would you characterize how E-rate in general is working?
E-rate is still a complicated process and program. Definitely a great benefit to school districts across the country, let alone in the state of Idaho. We have how they measure the E-rate program is measured by poverty level, and we have roughly about a 70% poverty level across the state from a discount perspective. So we definitely rely on the E-rate program to help offset those costs across the state for applicants, and so the E-rate program is part of that. We also have a legislative dollars that were set aside specifically to broadband to pay for the non-E-rated portion of those costs. So in a sense, districts can now have a net zero cost to their broadband, if they meet those requirements. Mm-hmm. So.
I know some states rely on consultants to help them with mm-hmm. E-rate. Some other states have coordinators such as yourself. Correct. What would you say are the advantages of having a dedicated coordinator, and how does that benefit schools?
Well, there is a benefit because there's no cost to them. They basically get to receive the reimbursements that they receive. They get to keep mm-hmm. and use for their bottom line and their overall expenditures. So, I am dedicated to their needs, to the service level that they need, because there are a lot of small schools that do need help, and they essentially can't afford a consultant just because the economics doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of districts that do use consultants, and no right or wrong reason behind that. That's a time management that they prefer to use, and it's worked out really well for them. So, and I work with consultants across the state to help aggregate data for them, and so it's a very healthy. Today, it's a very healthy relationship. So it works really well, because at the end of the day, it's about the applicant, mm-hmm. it's about the school, about the students, the teachers, the education. So we keep that goal in mind, and we should all be able to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Well, with broadband in mind, talk about a little bit about what Idaho is doing to sort of try to close the digital equity gap, the homework gap, mm-hmm. How, for example, are schools extending broadband access beyond the school to homes, which we know is a key issue for a lot of school administrators.
Yeah, that's definitely an area that we are exploring, work in progress in terms of expanding that connectivity. There's been conversations about buses that have hotspots parked in certain areas, but nothing is really grab a foothold as of yet, but definitely in conversation stages, because there's definitely needs, pockets of communities that definitely have a higher need than others. Schools do have, in a lot of those areas, schools do have Wi-Fi that leave on in the parking lot, so they do have some access if there's no other means available to them. So there's limited, but room for expansion and growth for sure, absolutely. Mm-hmm. We are expanding and always in conversation about the digital curriculum and having that that need and that connectivity and that connection more convenient for students, so they can have a more richer learning environment and be able to take it with them, as opposed to having to carry around a large set of books and stuff. But having, not only just having a textbook in a digital format, but more or less in enriching that education, because of the access of different levels of information for that subject is definitely in progress right now.
Talk a little about what Idaho's doing that you think is innovative, or using technologies in new and more creative ways that you're excited about.
Well, we do have a very strong Google Apps for Education community, and I'm actually part of it, because I participate, I learn, just kind of take a pulse of what's going on across the state. Very strong, very, very healthy in terms of reaching out to their colleagues and peers across the state if there's something new that's coming up, something different that's being developed. So that's a very nice community, and definitely working very well from what I can tell. We also have what's called an Idaho Education Technologies Association, which is a body of school technology directors, for the most part, coordinators and directors that are divided up by regions that come together. I participate in their monthly meetings. That is a great source of information of what is going on in a smaller area, geographic area, and then as far as the entire state, so you're able to break it down a little bit. So it's a very good, healthy association that's definitely has our state superintendent's ear. They're definitely a big influence in legislators and also with our state superintendent. So as far as advisory items, to keep technology as important as it is in education.
And lastly, what innovative ideas did you hear at the Leadership Summit that you might be taking back with you?
Definitely the Every Student Succeeds Act is definitely expanding, and definitely a hot topic today as far as what that landscape really means. So definitely seeing what other states are doing, and it's nice to be able to glean some of that information on what other states are doing and how they're structuring internally and how that's going to work. So definitely more strategic level of how that's going to work in our state, and what benefits can Idaho take for that. So that's probably the biggest thing that I'll take away, minus the broadband stuff, but from the education side, absolutely.
Terrific. Yeah. Well, Todd Lawrence, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And thanks for sharing some of the things that you're working on in the state of Idaho.
Thank you very much.
I'm Wyatt Kash with EdScoop TV. Thanks for being with us, and look for more of our coverage on edscoop.com.